good morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing very well today and you're ready to kickstart your day with me, Maha Mukhtoom and Shahzad Khan on World This Morning. Today we have an excellent show for you. It's something that some of us have lots of, some of us have not enough of, and some people are just in the right place. But Shahzad, how are you today?
I'm absolutely perfect. You very correctly said and you very correctly mentioned that some people might have quite a lot of it, some people might not even have it, and some people might misuse it as
Exactly. And we have this debate on our show that, who has, more, less, all that stuff.
well. And then, half of the time for all those people who've got like a capability of actually making people worry about themselves because of their confidence is just that what we are talking about today, that you have so much of it.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a very meager difference in between being confident and then overconfidence as well. A lot of times we say that, being confident is a very positive sign, but being overconfident is not. It's
Exactly.
negative. It's a negative side in your personality, and when you have too much of confidence, that is quite a lot of times interrelated or interlinked with low self-esteem.
Exactly. And what we're going to be discussing today is the whole aspect of self-esteem and confidence. And like Shahzad said, there is a fine line between confidence and then overcompensation and, going over the top and arrogance. But today we're going to talk about the triggers that affect self-esteem and confidence. We'll talk about the society and the cultural aspect that has an effect on it. And we'll talk about how can we combat this issue, because going forward, we're creating a generation of confused individuals because they have their own ideas, they see the world, they have exposure, then they have, input from elders who have a different idea of things.
Exactly.
So there's a kind of a battle going on.
And then half of the time, I think, when parents are actually parenting their kids, they might not make the right decisions at the right time, and they know that there might be a problem within the upbringing or the grooming of the child, but they might not witness it because of the fact that they think that whatever they have said is just fine or right. And for example, if an individual stands against it, well, he's thrown out of the room as well. How does it apply to him? How does it affect him? And then on another level, I think, because as kids we do go to schools, and we are supposed to make our own decisions within the school premises as well, because the parents are not around. What type of decisions do we come up with? And all of those decisions obviously have an impact, first of all, on our personality. But while you're making those decisions, is because of the fact that the course you have gone through over your life, that's what makes you decide that this is what you're going to do. For example, economic burden can make you probably go down just because of the fact that you weren't able to handle it. And then if it's not the economic burden, it might be the society which Maha mentioned, which we were living in, or probably the neighborhood you were in, or probably when you got bullied, how did you react to that will probably lead on to that. So that's what we are discussing today, how to build your confidence and how to build your self-esteem. And for that, we have been joined by some amazing, fantabulous guests over here in the studios, and they are...
On a Friday. Thank you, Shahzad. On a Friday, we've been joined by Dr. Uzma. She is our psychologist. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Besides Dr. Uzma, we've been joined by Furqan Shamsi, who is a corporate trainer. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Besides Mr. Furqan Shamsi, we've been joined by Colonel Shafqat Saeed. He is a personality development expert. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Okay, we're going to start with you, Dr. Uzma. Tell us the difference, because there is a difference between self-esteem and confidence. So tell us what it is.
Actually, self-esteem is basically a little deeper concept that is related with our life, general development of our mind, personality, and overall performance. And mostly it is based upon our, practices which we encounter at our homes. Usually children, they develop self-esteem with the passage of time, and once they are adults, they are just, perform with the help of that self-esteem. But self-confidence is relatively, of course it is related, but it is more of kind of performance related. Once you have trust on your abilities, once you know how to deal with the situation. While self-esteem, it is mostly about the trust in your abilities. Once you form those abilities and you are not more confident, how can you use these abilities and those skills which you have acquired with the passage of time? Or these two are interrelated, but self-confidence can be regained, it can be developed, it can be formed for some situational purposes. But self-esteem, it is a little deeper thing, and it is difficult, it is more enduring, it is more persistent in your personality, and it is a relatively difficult to reach first and then to work.
And it has more more psychological aspects involved with
Yeah, it is
self-esteem.
mostly underlying factor for each and every psychological problem, because most of the things are related to your self-esteem, because you think you will be not able to handle certain things. It could be emotional problems, it could be psychological, environmental, social, whatever, relationships. But once you don't have very good self-esteem, properly developed I would say appropriate self-esteem. So if it is not developed, then you will encounter problems in all these facets of life.
Okay, that's great. But you know,
Great,
you very
thank you.
correctly mentioned that having faith in your abilities
Yeah.
is what confidence is.
Exactly.
But what is self-esteem? Because I haven't actually gone about it just like the way that it's very deeper, or you know, it's
Yeah.
all of what you're going through, or whether it's developed or not. But to be more precise, what is it?
Self-
Anybody?
It is a component, just one line, it is component of your personality that is developed while you are being raised up in a family, in a system, in a society. So I would say the labels, the way of handling things, and the messages which are sent to you and your mind, it develops or shapes your personality. So it is most of the concept that how much you will be able to handle your life affairs.
Very nice.
Then there are a lot of things which are related to that. So that's why it is deeper, because it starts developing early in the life years when you don't have any concept of life, performance, and anything at
Or
all.
when you never had any other ability as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
other than
yeah,
crying.
definitely, because it's all based upon the others, comments, the family messages, and everything.
So it's the environment that you were.
Dr. Saba was correct in saying that self-confidence is trust in abilities. But the problem is that one should practice, go out and apply himself so that he mires up his abilities. And the exact thing is that you should be absolutely sure of your abilities, and you have to build on your abilities. Once you build on your abilities, you perfect your abilities, your confidence improves. Once we say overconfident, it is overestimation of abilities. For example, I can't jump and I say I can jump. I'm overestimating myself. Exactly like that. If I can jump and I say no, I can't, so that is one is underconfident. Now coming to self-esteem, it is a compound word. Self-esteem, they are two different things. Both of them individually are nouns. But once we take them combined, they are noun and verb both. Esteem is a position, and self-esteem is what position I am giving to myself. For example, with the passage of time, one learns that how he looks good, how he's going to impress the surroundings. So he starts doing those things, like you select a hairstyle, you select a pattern of dressing, you pick up the style of speaking. Now you're doing all these things to have individuality or your own recognition.
Exactly.
Exactly like that, once one starts doing things so that he gets respected, that doing of good things is called self-esteem. We say he does not have self-esteem or he has self-esteem. And when we refer to somebody that he has a self-esteem, we are using it as a noun. And once we say he strives for self-esteem, he cares self-esteem, he is doing things of a type and manner, in a manner that the people around him respect him, and he has a good influence on his surrounding.
All right.
And we can build on this. Once a child is told to do things, he is made to understand. When he's getting exposed to different aspects of practical life, he has the knowledge that this is coming to me.
Yeah.
Now I would be exposed to such things. He must have a pre-plan. And once he knows that he is going to be exposed to certain things, and he has already planned himself, he has a plan existing to handle himself in that situation, he would be able to establish a self-esteem.
Okay, great. So I will move on to Furqan in a moment, because I want to bring it up into the corporate
I
aspect.
would just like to add
Yes.
something. I mean, but the experts have already added, actually. Self-esteem is actually about the feelings.
All right.
How you rate yourself. Let's put it this way, in a very simple way. How you rate yourself. It's about the self-respect and the self-worth. Just partially disagreeing to what Dr. Saba was saying earlier on. Like self-confidence, self-esteem is actually circumstantial as well. It's not that, it's very deep, yes, but you can work upon it.
All right.
You can actually enhance your self-esteem,
Definitely you can.
just like your self-confidence as well.
Yeah.
So at many point of time, perhaps today, while coming to this show, I might have a low self-esteem due to how I look, how I feel about myself, or perhaps I might have a very high self-esteem. So it is circumstantial.
but
as
that
well.
Oh, you
can
see,
be
I thought,
confused.
see, that's the thing, that's where the confusion
Yeah.
starts, because I thought that would be confidence.
Yeah.
The self-esteem would be much more, the reason the confidence would be low because my self-esteem is
The
not
self-confidence
high.
associated with this
Definitely.
differentiated by a very thin line actually with this self-esteem I was referring to is my ability to speak here.
Right.
If I don't see my abilities, that do I have that content? Well, I look very good. I'm properly attired.
Yeah.
I've got a nice tie, shoes polished and everything. That's my self-esteem. I mean, how I'm
No, I
looking.
thought that was confidence. I thought that self-esteem is to do with all the psychological aspects of you growing up. So the
Well,
reason why we're
obviously.
still insecure.
Sometimes we try hard to manage the situation, but it is very difficult for us to manage for the time being. Although we know we have all abilities, we have all capabilities, but sometimes it is out of our
Okay, for
hands.
example, I'm going to give you an example now. Guide me through.
Yeah.
For example, if earlier in the morning I woke up, it's winters now, I didn't have any hot water in my shower, didn't take a shower. I'm habitual of taking a shower every day. On my way, I felt as if, oh my God, man, I just feel horrible today. I don't know how I'll be performing on the show as well. Now, what is that? Is that lower self-esteem? Is that low
No,
confidence?
this is not self-esteem. Self-esteem is basically built in your personality. Of course, it could be changed. I agree with you. It could be changed.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we work on our
Yeah,
self-esteem.
this is what we learn with with our experiences, learning through our experiences, getting our things better.
So
It's
that
basically
means that
improving
confidence
self-esteem.
and self-esteem both can be circumstantial.
I would
Right?
circumstances affected, but this is a gradual process you have to build on. You have to continuously improve. For example, the things that you keep on doing so that you have an impression, you get recognized, that adds to your self-esteem. For example, it is not one incident, your car tire went flat, you lose self-esteem. No, it's not like that. Self-esteem is over the years. How did you perform? How did you apply yourself all along, every moment?
Did you get support?
Yes.
Did people encourage
Yes.
you?
No,
Positive
this
reinforcement?
is how you look to others, The effort that you make, that how the others should view you, that is self-esteem. You have the ability, you perform, you speak well, you interpret well, you comment well, right? And you take the right decision at the right time, you have self-esteem. And if you fail to apply yourself practically to the life around you and to situation, you can't apply yourself, then you don't have the self-esteem.
All right.
Okay, do you want to add something to that? Or that was fine?
I was just thinking about the overconfidence. It is definitely overcompensation of your self-esteem sometimes. It is sometimes overestimation of your abilities, but most of the time it is overcompensation of your low self-esteem, in fact. That
It's
is
like
called
being
overcompensation.
Sheikh Chili
So-
as well,
so
man.
basically-
I've been
Kind of,
reading
kind of.
we've
So
been reading
basically, it's
stories.
about self-worth. So
Yeah, self-worth.
that's-
And very correctly said, the self-rating. How do you rate yourself?
Okay, so that's great. Now going forward, because otherwise we're going to be talking about the definition and distinction forever, so let's progress with the conversation. Now, in regards to creating a healthy individual, it starts from childhood. So parents have a huge role in the self-esteem of a child, which then consequently on the confidence of the child in their abilities. Now, what kind of environment should the parents be at? Because we're in a culture where elders know best. You're always kind of looking to someone to make sure you're doing things right or wrong. So how can we now in the 21st century build up our children's self-esteem and confidence to fit in with the current situation?
Actually, this has, in fact, how it has to be done involves lot of must and shoulds. This is all about environment, as I already said. The building of self-esteem is mostly related to your childhood experiences, the way you learn yourself, how to rate yourself, how to label yourself with certain things, how you trust your abilities. It starts right from the beginning of your life, and definitely it is your significant others, it is your close family members, and initially your family, and then your social setup, school setup, and then afterwards your social life and everything. But once it starts building up, again, I'm coming towards must and shoulds. So I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, what
you
does
know,
must and shoulds?
Okay,
Let's-
yeah.
we'll move to the must and shoulds, but this calls like, hey,
there are other
you can't,
factors.
you're not going to move, what are you doing? This
Yeah,
constant,
so
like,
it should
environment.
not be done,
Okay.
what I would
It
say.
has a very
It
different-
should not be done.
But there are other factors actually besides the childhood. Yes, it's the place where it's starting actually.
Yes.
I mean, looking at our contemporary arena we're living in, being adults actually, it happens during this time as well. For example, at my workplace, if I've been snubbed by my bosses again and again, perhaps even performing well, or I don't want to quote it actually,
Right,
but
right.
say
No,
in
but go ahead.
Right.
say in public sector, for example, then I'm actually, that is contributing to my low self-esteem as well.
Okay.
But it will be actually coupled, accustomed with whatever upbringing I was going through my childhood.
Yeah.
So yes, that was the place it all started. Parents, teachers, the place we were actually playing with our friends, how they were treating us while playing cricket on the street, for example, where we were just to pick up the balls and stuff. I'm just, giving you an example. But these are all the factors. But now, self-esteem is not only, as I said earlier on, it is circumstantial as well.
Absolutely.
Which means we can work upon it.
Definitely,
And
we can
definitely,
always.
like even
But yeah,
now,
We can
yeah,
always
that was
work
my
upon
gradual thing. I want to start from childhood. I want to move
We
to
can always
adolescence,
work.
and I want to move to adulthood, and then into the corporate sector and all that. That's what I was
Right.
going
No,
towards.
but now what I wanted to ask was that, for example, you were earlier talking about that, for example, parenting and then kids, how they respond to it as well. And that cannot be circumstantial because, for example, if you're in a situation where you just can't control it, that's what the society we were talking about earlier on the show, it's just there. I don't know whether to call it a stigma or whether to call it a taboo, where you just cannot share your own experiences with your parents who have been telling you that this is what you're supposed to do, which means ultimately that the environment is not conducive for the kid to grow in that certain place. And obviously it's not under control.
course it is
right?
not, right.
Now, obviously
What to do?
that poor champ will actually have to go through all of that throughout his life till the time he's able to make his own decisions. Now, in those circumstances, what do you think that will be the symptoms for the parents? Because they have to identify them, right?
Right.
And if they have to identify them, what can those
The
symptoms
first thing
be?
is mother,
All right.
then both parents, and then the teacher.
All right.
Now, instead of stopping, a child would keep learning. The moment, every day, every moment, a child is learning.
Yeah.
So if you want to teach him by saying no, 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 don't, that is a very wrong way. You start applying him. He wants a pen, he wants a scissor, he wants a knife, he wants a hammer. Give it to him and then tell him how to handle it. And then tell him to put it back. And tell him the importance of that thing and how it is to be handled. Then snatching it, staring him, pushing him away, that is not a correct way. Parent must understand their duties. Secondly, a parent, whether he has got very good schooling for his child or he gets very costly things for his child, he has kept the child's room stuffed with toys or whatever, unless he has been able to create that relation with the child, that the child can share everything with the parent, the parenting has not been done.
Absolutely.
The basic thing is, the first most important thing is, a child, whether a girl or a boy, must be able to share whatever, I'm saying whatever, with the parent.
And feel safe.
The parent is supposed to be the best friend of the child.
Absolutely.
That is not
I'll
the
be,
case.
I'll be
I think you don't even need a mic today.
it has to be encouraging. I'm
Environment,
sorry,
yeah.
just
No,
jumping
it's
in.
okay.
It has to be an encouraging environment actually by the parents, and hence I usually quote this saying by Hazrat Ali that do not raise your children as per your own time.
Right.
Raise them as per their time.
Exactly.
Which means things have changed. Your understanding about certain issues, they were different. Now, the environment they are being raised, it's totally different.
I'll be talking about the signs or red flags for, maybe a child is.
So let's talk about that now because I want to.
Hi, exactly. So it is isolation. Once child starts isolating himself from everything, first. Secondly, he stops sharing his things, his daily experiences with anyone in the family. Not only isolation, but also sharing of things. Third, you might observe some social anxiety once he's around his peer group or he has to express himself, he feels anxiety. He doesn't want to go close to others. And in addition to that, the negative self-talk usually, negative self-evaluation or the talk that reflects some kind of negativity on the part of, like I won't be able to do that, maybe I'm not as good as others are, maybe I won't, I'm not that competent or I won't be able to do this and that. So this self-talk maybe it is self-talk or it is communicated to you. In both cases, it is kind of red flag.
Okay, but I have a very generic example for that as well. For example, the moment you start growing up, you know what you're doing as well as a kid. For example, if you're 11 or 12, you go to schools. You have plenty of cousins over here in Pakistani
Exactly.
families as well. You know, everybody loves to have like lots of kids as well. And we do not have a policy for that in shape. But then what happens is that there is a constant competition within families. Now, I'm very sorry to bring that up, but I think it affects you
It
as
is
well.
very
I think it has
important.
affected me. Now, for all those cousins of mine who were very bright in school, every time the result is going to be announced, they would probably call me just to ask what my result was, knowing that he would have been the 32nd or the 33rd person in the class. Why would you do that? And once it's done, obviously parents know each other's results. Well, look at you. My sister's son scored this much mark and you cannot even do that. What do you think that this comparison might have been doing to all those kids who are out there?
I agree, but this is all about shoulds and must. But I was talking about the signs, so you can have.
Yeah, so you would like.
Yeah. I mean, this comparison actually, that destroys the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That destroys the relationship, one, because where you're encouraging your child to be sharing everything, now you're actually discouraging that, you see,
His capabilities
exactly.
definitely.
In question.
You're not acknowledging the
everything is being
capability.
questioned there. One. Secondly, obviously, this destroys the overall, the kind of ecosystem at the house.
Yeah.
You know what happens is like the child then will start doing the comparison for himself or herself,
Exactly.
and that is the very first sign.
Very first sign.
where you're actually damaging your own self-esteem.
Exactly.
Because when you start doing the comparisons with others places, I mean, scenarios, then you're actually destroying your, because we just established the fact that it's about the self-worth and how you rate it, how you rate yourself. So once you're rating yourself in terms of comparisons, there you go.
You are
Well,
nowhere.
one last thing
You are
which is
nowhere.
related to that
I
as
want
well.
to add to this.
Sure. But one last thing before I forget that as well. Now, what happens is, for example, since I've gone through that situation quite a lot of times as well.
I think a lot of us
Either,
have.
what happens is that they use this word in Urdu is, well, he becomes a dheet, or probably he's very staunch of the idea, whatever.
I'll explain
This is
it.
who I am and this is who I will be. Now, is that a better choice, or, probably suffering through it is the better choice? We'll start with you.
No.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing the parent must do is comparing is criminal.
All right.
It is destroying your child. You're killing him. The most important thing is that try and instill confidence in him by telling him what he can and tell him that he can do better than that.
Yeah.
Encourage him. Not that, look what he has done, look at you.
Yeah.
This is the
And
worst thing
then
that a
after,
parent
say,
can
but
do a
you're
child.
You know,
clever.
you
No,
can
and
encourage.
tell him, and the child must know the joy that you get once he does better. He should strive to come up to your expectations. Expect more from him, but please don't push him down, bury him in shame. No, don't do that.
And the only competition one should have, even as a child, is with yourself.
Yes,
not with
that is the
another.
best thing.
Okay, yes.
So
ma'am.
this cousin competition is kind of positive also, because it encourages the child to compete with them at one side, but on the other side, if it is persistent and the child is unable to do anything, the word you just said, dheet, that is because the child does not know what to do. Then he learns that this is better way. Let's be dheet, because he doesn't know what to do, because he has no guidance from his surroundings, no guidance, no encouragement, and the guidance is, encouraging the child is a way of guiding him in his childhood.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we've kind of laid the grounding for the talk about adolescents and adults, but I want to skip the adolescence part because we do focus on that a lot.
Okay.
Now, as an adult, I want to move on to the corporate sector first, because I think that's very important, because I think that this
Right.
is something we're figuring with. So the generation that are there now, this is the environment they were in. That, what are you doing? Look at them. They're doing this and that with their life. Now,
They're so successful.
yeah, exactly.
Look at you.
Okay, so then now they're adults. They're married or they're in jobs and they have kids, etc. And basically, how does that affect someone when they go into the workplace? Having a childhood like that, when they had the competition with every student, with their cousins, and then they're faced with a situation
I
at
led
workplace.
also.
And then not even that, further adding on to that, or look at your cousins. No, because the comparison is
She's
going
not having
on.
a therapy session.
Yeah, since then. Or even
Continuous.
if it's a therapy, I think it's one of those issues which needs to be highlighted as well.
Yes.
For example, oh, look at your cousins, they got married, their children are going to grow up so fast, and look where you are, you haven't even got a job right now. This probably kills the person at that particular moment because he's got the confidence, but you are probably constantly thrashing it away.
You know what happened when we go to the workplace, or when anyone actually goes to the workplace, having low, I mean, I won't call low self-esteem, but being gone through such periods where he has been developed into an adult who's actually having that problems.
Or is still deep.
Exactly.
Still deep. Actually, that's not deep. That's just a slightly different thing. We'll
Alright,
talk about it
sure.
if time
Yeah.
permits. Now, what happens at the workplace, the first thing he or she needs to do is actually to create that self-image for him or herself. You know, that self-image is about the self-worth. How you rank yourself for yourself. One, at that workplace. Perhaps, for example, if you ask me to work behind these cameras, I will be slouched and I will be like, how to use it. But if you take it to my own battleground, I will be rather more, you know, confident. So that would be my ability then.
Yeah.
But there the concept of self-efficacy comes in, where you build upon your abilities and then actually take it to the next level. And then you will be declared as confident. You know, it's about striking a balance between from the ranges of low self-esteem and high self-esteem.
So how do we do that though within that? Because we are running really short on time with,
One of the red flag sign, but we were talking about,
That's an adult.
look at the people who are actually using their mobile phones while in the meetings, while they're sitting uncomfortably. For example, we are sitting here, there's a break, and I just take out my mobile phone, so which means that is a sign. So because most people are actually...
It's kind of avoidance of
Yes, it's about
situation.
avoidance
Right.
of that scenario actually.
Perfect.
So the affirmation you need at that moment of time that I'm being loved by everyone, I've been watched by everyone, because the way I'm watching myself is perhaps they're looking at my shoes. No, they're looking at my hair. So to avoid that situation, I'm actually doing that.
All right, and I've got a good piece of advice as well for all those people who think that they're going to be the center of attraction or attention if they move or probably go into a meeting. The first thing you need to do is they probably sit right next to your boss, and that won't happen as well. That's a good piece of advice I'm sharing with you guys.
So you wanted to add something?
I would say that first of all, when
I have two
a
things.
person must
Yeah, I'll come to
a person must be explained that what are his abilities. For example, normally this is not done in our society. Every child is to become a doctor or an engineer, and then he finally eventually rests as a teacher or as a lawyer or as a something else. But we dictate this thing that you will become a doctor, right?
Yeah.
You will become an engineer. Now this is not correct. We must identify the exact field of the child or his potential as early as possible. And we should not try to carry out a psychological test. Or we should see the child, what he has liking for. For example, is he fond of tools, or he goes for colors, or he picks up papers and he writes, or he is more physically agile, or what is he? Or he's a good speaker, he has the ability to be a anchor or a newsreader or a, whatever. You must pick up this at earliest as possible, and then nurture those abilities. Not that a boy who is supposed to be a 100-meter sprinter and the parents are pushing him, the teachers are pushing him that no, you have to become a doctor. And he loses everything. Neither he becomes a doctor nor he becomes a sprinter, right? We must identify a child. And a child knows. And he is to be made to disclose that. And you must do that by activity. It is not, beta, bada hokar kya banoge? And he stares in the sky and then he says, pilot banunga. No, this is not correct. See his actions, see his applications. Then pick up the potential. And then apply him in those accordingly that potential. And then you pick up that, right, this is his field. You know, the best people in applying their youth are Germans. And they pick up the potential at very earlier stage. A boy who is 13, 14 years old, he goes on to say, studying in a high school, middle school, he says, I'll be a truck driver. Right? And in our country, you would not find a single child saying, I'll be a truck driver.
But you do,
Majority
but
ends
over
up as
here
a
in
truck
our
driver.
country, we do get children who say that I'll be a father. They
I
don't know
have, I
happens
have,
all the
I have
time.
two things to share. First, self-confidence has basically two main components: self-efficacy and self-esteem. Self-esteem is related to your trust, and self-efficacy is related to your abilities. So both have to be, taken care of at the same time in a balanced way, so that one can have good self-confidence. And second thing, in the corporate sector, workplace we were talking about, I will just add, I'm agreeing whatever he said. One thing, sometimes a child or a person, doesn't have any positive interpretation of even positive environment. He has different interpretation of anything that is going around. That is, of course, in his best interest, but sometimes he interprets his reality in a different way. So while self-confidence is not in place, or it is not properly, at a better level, appropriate level, so the child, the person, he would think as if he is misfit in his environment, although he is properly, adjusted there. So here where the self-esteem comes in. So while with low self-esteem, even though the environment is very cooperative, very, I would say, accommodating,
yeah.
whatever, but the person is uncomfortable.
Okay.
All right.
So that's, yep, sorry. Furqan.
If I just add, I mean, because what happened at the workplaces, it's about a very simple thought process, which starts from yourself, that is the self-esteem, leading towards being self-confident. So that thought process, which is actually starting from you, say we call it PMA, positive mental attitude.
Right.
So if you have that, obviously your whole thought process, not about yourself actually, about the circumstances, about the situation, scenarios, and your interpretations will start changing. It's not about being personality D type, where you're just negative and
Exactly.
negative and negative.
Agreed.
It's about having that positive attitude about things. First of all, it starts from yourself. And usually, but I give an example.
But how do you know? Okay, so
Yeah.
now we talk about this, and this is the thing. This is what I discuss with my father as well, because he's a psychiatrist. But what the whole thing is, it starts with yourself and having a positive attitude. It's very easy to say these things, but if you've been and the thing is, a lot of the times parents don't do it on purpose. But a lot of the times, if you're growing up hearing the comparison, if you grow up thinking, oh, I have to do this, but I really want to do this, but there's no way I can do it, and then you end up doing, pleasing everyone. And I think a lot of people within this culture and society do live their lives to please their parents, or
Exactly.
Obviously.
because they don't want to disrespect them. Now, how do you draw that fine line? Because at the end of the day, you're destroying personalities. You're kind of forcing someone down a different path. Is that self-confidence, self-esteem? What is that? Let me ask.
No, self-esteem, I would slightly differ with my colleagues, is a reputation that you build up by your actions, by your effort, by your struggle, that the other people view, how they view you, how you look to them, right? Now, you're saying that obeying parents for changing line, I think that, for example, a child has to value his parents' advice.
Of course, they were saying
or
to
direction.
value.
No, it does not affect your self-esteem. Self-esteem is your ability to take correct decision. Like, right? For example, if my father tells me, right, you will not go to army, you will go to Air Force, right? Now, I don't want to annoy him for the rest of my life. I apply myself. My self-esteem tells me, okay, I can do that. Then what if my peers, my best friends are going to army, I'll go to Air Force, okay, good enough. No, it has nothing to do with self-esteem. The self-esteem is that you destroy somebody's abilities. You let him believe that he can't do anything, he's good for nothing.
But that's exactly
Right?
what you've done. So that's
Exactly.
why they
No.
followed the path that has been set out for them, correct? So if they were so confident in their abilities to join something or have the confidence to join something, they would do it no matter what.
No, but then there's a thin line in between,
Kind of.
being very, for example, if you obey your parents, there's a very thin line in between obeying and then, probably going with your own gut feelings as well. I mean, you're at that age where you want to decide for your own self whether you want to be an engineer or a doctor.
Yeah.
So then, how, for example, all those kids who are out there who might be facing this problem right now, what are they supposed to do?
So you see, we have to actually bring in some other
Factors.
factors, I would say concepts as well.
All right.
When you're obeying your parents, it's nothing to do with self-esteem. There are certain causalities actually. Yes, by their actions and by virtue of those, they are telling you that you have to be an engineer, you have to be a doctor, they are actually, we just take it their way. They are destroying your self-esteem. But that's nothing to do with overall that what the child is doing. You know, here comes the values. The culture or the society we are living in, you know, all these definitions and everything, they take a very different shape when we actually apply it to our culture. Because here, the whole concept of morality, moral codes, and values, they are very much different, the way they define it.
Right.
When we look at these definitions, what we were trying to establish earlier on, they were all referring to many different perspectives and sources.
All right.
So when we apply it in a pragmatic way, they become very different.
Absolutely.
So for example, when we say when they are not, I mean, when they are obeying their parents, for example. Yes, my father wanted me to be a doctor.
Yeah.
When I was actually in my earlier secondary school, I was doing my SSC. But yes, later on he found out that I've got germs of, you know, not being a doctor actually. You see, when I was doing my bachelor's, then he actually encouraged me because I had this interest or inclination towards doing some business, for example. So the whole process was changing. It was evolving. Yes, at times I felt, and we all felt, the world is not a wish-granting factory.
All right.
So we cannot actually blame again and again what parents are doing.
No, but we're not blaming.
no one's
We're not
blaming.
blaming.
No, blaming overall as a
Okay,
system.
so but this is the thing. My point was that it's not about that. The point is that if you're being led constantly from your childhood to your adolescence
Exactly.
in a certain way or a certain path, so you've come there, you've presented something, but you keep being led a different way, surely that's going to have some sort of psychological effect on you that,
Oh, yes.
okay, well, this was my decision. I came up with these ideas. However, all my life, I've been told that,
Because
no, do
I'm a
this.
living example.
Yes,
actually.
no, because then you won't have faith in your own abilities.
You know,
yes,
I'm a
continue.
living example actually.
Yeah.
For example, and many others like me. Say till college and school, I was not able. I mean, you know, I do public speaking almost every day. I do corporate trainings. I do one-to-one coaching.
Now, whenever you're talking, you're
See,
doing
so
it,
for
right?
example, so this is my everyday job. I mean, this is what my kitchen is, you know, being supervised by.
That's
For
good.
example.
Okay.
Many people think I was the very best debater or a speech, kind of a speech club member at my school and college. No, only once I tried. And the chair I was holding, I don't know, because that chair is still shaking actually.
Okay,
I don't
she's so
know.
nervous.
Because, I mean, at that moment of time, I didn't know that I can speak because I was never been encouraged that way.
Okay.
Okay, but what happened then? It was the self-efficacy part.
Exactly.
But I started working upon seeking help from different people, from myself first of all. It was the other people who encouraged me, yes, but it was me who actually encouraged myself.
Okay.
That how I want to look myself, say where I want to be.
Okay.
All right. So since we are left with last 5 minutes, now let's just talk about all of those red flags which an adult might
let's-
have, and
yeah.
then what type of therapies or counseling do we need to go through?
Okay.
So in general performance, we can observe very easily people who feel or who appear to be not adjusted to their environment. It could be work environment, home environment, and anywhere. So they can easily picked up because they cannot build up relationship. Their performance is not up to the mark, and they can easily picked up. And in childhood, of course, I already talked about the red flags. What I would suggest as a part of intervention or overcoming that, it is not difficult task. Definitely, once identification of certain lacking or weaknesses, acceptance of those weaknesses, identifying them is the first step. So you should know what you need to improve on. So selecting that, you have lot of methods in your surroundings. You can go to certain counselor. You can take help, or you can also observe in your environment who people are excelling in certain skills. So you can acquire
get
them
better
anytime. Yes, you can get better
by your
anytime.
own self?
Own self. And once self-esteem is preserved, I am a psychologist, so I think a little different way. I think if self-esteem is preserved, in his case, it was preserved completely there. So he built up on his abilities, and with his self-confidence, he is here. And I think it is not the case with most of us. So we have to take care of that from childhood.
But it does depend with, it is
On your
obviously
environment.
interlinked with the results you get
Definitely.
when you make
Definitely.
your own decisions.
Furqan, would you?
Well, once it's established that what your achievements or your strengths or weaknesses are, so you have accepted. So once you have accepted that, now the next point is about actually on the practical ground. I mean, not like putting on a piece of paper and put it like on a under a bulb or on a blue
Just go
paper or
through it every
something.
day, yeah.
You know, it's about actually applying it. Applying it, start interacting with people.
All right.
For example, I mean, I just give you a very small example. You go and buy some grocery items. Try to have a very little, what you call small talks in normal conversation. Try to have a small conversation with that shopkeeper or the boy who's actually serving you at the till, for example. Try to have that. It will actually encourage you to share your ideas. So two things happens. You start interacting. You're creating your network now. Second, the third step was now you're sharing your ideas. You know, what are the signs of low self-esteem or being less confident? You are shy to initiate conversation. You're shy to actually meet other people. You're shy or constrained to go into
Talk about your own ideas.
your own ideas.
Yeah.
You withdraw from, say, discussions or you even, but, you know, let me give you an example. I mean, because we are
Very quickly, we're
Yeah,
very
we're
short
very
of time.
short
Yes,
of
for
time.
example, when you take compliments, be positive about it.
Yeah.
For example, if I say, it's a very nice shirt, Shehzad, and you say, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's more like it's, you know, your own inner thing is being reflected.
He'll
When
say,
you
"I
say,
know."
oh, thank you, yes. So that shows you being very confident.
Okay, sir.
Even the
Sorry.
identical twins are not same in personality,
Absolutely.
except for their looks. Exactly like that, no two human beings can be same. So forget about comparisons. If you want to have your child or your subordinate or your student build on self-confidence and self-esteem.
Great.
And secondly, parents' main duty is that they are supposed to be the best friends of the child. They must know what their child wants, and the child must not have any sort of barrier, once it's come to sharing his inner feelings. And the child must have a faith that I can go and tell my father or mother anything that I want.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here on a Friday. I hope you guys enjoy the show. We actually have no time left, but I just want to say that, you know, I actually was really shy before I started doing this job, but over time you build up because, you know, no one ever believes it, but I did not instigate conversations.
Yeah,
half
and
the
if
time.
you have to do it yourself, you know, just two very quick tips. And one is that, for example, write down your achievements, strengths, and where you think that you might lack. Sit down with a relative or a parent, talk to them about it, and you will actually figure out where the problem is.
Yeah.
And the second tip, which is the best one, clip your nails, make a good hairstyle, wear some good clothes. You will feel great about it.
Exactly.
Don't forget to write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of
Well, this morning.
on Twitter,
Well, this morning without a G.
on Daily Motion,
Well, this morning.
and then the repeat is going to be at
11:05 p.m. this evening. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful day. We will see you bright and early on Monday.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3,
Good
good
morning.
morning.